What's up, guys? It's Brandon Flash. Today you're joining me with a Chevy Blazer EV. I've had it as a rental for about 5 days now. Just going to give you guys a quick tour and some of my thoughts on it. As I mentioned, we have a 2024 Blazer EV LT all-wheel drive. This is a fairly base model, MSRP a bit over $50,000. However, they do seem to be going for low 40s with some rebates and things. I've had this as a rental from Avis. I have to charge it up before I return it tomorrow morning. I actually had a Tesla supercharger using my A to Z adapter. If you don't have one already and you have a GM, Ford, or Rivian, at least as of recording, definitely check out the link down below. It gets you a discount on the A to Z adapter. But without further ado, let me give you a quick tour of this EV and then give you some of my thoughts. So for those that don't know, I have a 2023 Tesla Model Y at home. It is the all-wheel drive trim with the 4680 battery pack that has absolutely terrible charging, but is otherwise a pretty competent car. I'm up here on a trip and I rented this 2024 Blazer EV from Avis. They originally put me into an EV6, but someone had tipped me off that they had Blazer EVs at this location. So I asked for one and they gave it to me. And I've had the pleasure of putting about 200 miles on this in about 5 days. And overall, I must say I am pretty happy with it. Here I am charging on a Tesla supercharger using that A to Z adapter. It's working really well. I'm actually really glad I brought that with me because the charging options here are not great other than Tesla. And that was also a factor for why I didn't want the EV6 rental on this trip, but that's a story for another day. But this is a Blazer EV LT. We have the 19-inch wheels. This is in Riptide Blue. I had to look that up. And it's the LT trim all-wheel drive. It's a pretty nice vehicle, I must say. Around the outside, we have pretty handsome styling. We do have a rear wiper, which some of the EGMP cars do not have. We've got the pretty nice little Ultium badge with the little signature there of the 3 bars. You can see all-wheel drive trim. We're up in Wisconsin. Interesting that they have EV hybrid license tags, which I didn't know was a thing. Rear looks pretty good. I'd personally probably black out the Chevy badge. I just think the gold looks a bit dated, but that's just me. Handsome taillights. Let's open the trunk. Actually, we'll get back to that in a second. This side looks pretty handsome as well. This is a bit gaudy in my opinion, but it's fine. Coming around to the front, we unfortunately do not have a front trunk, which is a huge miss by Chevy GM on the Ultium platform. You have this massive hood, and then there's just nothing under it. Let me pop it for you. So I popped the hood, you do a double pull, we'll open it up, and it's nicely dampened. It has the struts there to hold it up, and then you have just this kind of ridiculous thing. There's just plastic everywhere. You got your washer fluid there, your fireman's cutoff loop. You have your brake fluid, which somehow, for some reason, is more accessible than your washer fluid, because that definitely makes sense. Cannot imagine that will lead to anyone putting washer fluid into their brake fluid reservoir. What could possibly go wrong? We'll slam this back down, but this is just kind of a total fail in packaging. Front end looks pretty good. I wish it didn't have a front plate on it, but that's just a state-by-state thing. We've got the roof rails coming around on top. We'll start in the back. Presents the lights when you walk up to it. And then here is the trunk, which is pretty solid, I must say. So put that out of the way. You push that down to lift this up. You've got a decent amount of storage under here. Nothing crazy, but better than nothing, that's for sure. Yeah, that's actually really deep. So my hand goes pretty darn far down there. Let's see if I can turn on the flash. So there you go. That's how you can see how deep that is. It is surprisingly decent actually under here. We'll shut that. There's nothing on the sides here, there. The seats fold down, of course. We have a power tailgate. I believe that is part of a convenience package that's offered on this. It's kind of slow. It has a lot of beeps all around this car. Back seat, door cards, pretty nice. They have this nice little kind of plastic pattern, better than piano black, that's for sure. You've got kind of a spot for a water bottle there. Back seat has rear vents right here, adjustable. I couldn't find a way to control the rear vents specifically, which I thought was a little bit strange. And then you can't really see them here, but there are two USB-C ports. And I tested those will do 42 watts each. I don't know if that's shared between them. I wasn't able to test that, but at least when one is used at a time, they can do 42 watts. And this is with the forward or the front seat set for me. I'm 6'3", and it's totally acceptable. I had a couple people in the back seat this trip, and everyone was pretty impressed with the back seat. I have decent headroom, so you can see here. Nothing to complain about in this back seat. Windows are decent. And we'll come around to the front. And again, pretty nice door card. You'll notice that not all of the windows are automatic open close except for the driver window, that just seems like such a silly mess. That really is pretty noticeable when you're used to it. You have mechanical door latches there, lock on lock. Oddly, they put the hatch released here. So that opens the tailgate, which I think is a little bit of a weird spot, but maybe that's just a GM thing that I'm not used to. And it does maybe let you shut it. Yep, it lets you shut it from there. So that's nice. Some cars don't let you do that. Some controls here, power or parking brake, lane keeping, auto hold, and pretty nice steering wheel. It has the weird controls on the back side of the wheel. This is also a regen paddle. This side has some volume and media controls. Here you can see your charging. When you have the car off, it does not show you any charging speed, but then you go ahead and turn it on and it will actually show you your charging speed. So we're getting 90 kilowatts at 67%, and that is actually very respectable, I must say. And then here you have the infotainment system. I'll have to shut the door because otherwise it will beep incessantly. You can also see efficiency there, 170 miles. That's kind of mixed driving, a little bit of interstate, and then also some a lot of city driving over the past few days. 2.6 miles per kilowatt hour, and that is just really embarrassing, I must say. They could do some work on the efficiency. It's been pretty mild weather here, so they could definitely do better. But overall, the range is actually pretty good because this has a very large battery pack. Battery pack in this EV is actually about 85 kilowatt hour. So that means we're getting a little bit over 1C even at 70%, which is pretty solid. If you're familiar with the EV world, you'll know that GM decided to ditch CarPlay and Android Auto on their new EVs, and this does run Android Automotive, which is different from Android Auto. So Android Auto is the phone mirroring if you have an Android phone, and Android Automotive is the actual operating system for vehicles. So one thing that I will note with this being a rental is that Avis does not have a data subscription on this, which means that nothing on this works unless I connect my phone via hotspot. I couldn't use maps. I couldn't use music. I guess I could play via Bluetooth from my phone. You can use Spotify, Google Assistant, Play Store. Basically, you couldn't use the infotainment for anything other than like a dumb media system unless you connected your phone hotspot because they don't get data. So Avis and other rental companies, if you're watching this, if you have Chevy EVs in your rental fleet, definitely get a data subscription on them if they don't have CarPlay, because without CarPlay, you are fully dependent on the built-in infotainment, which on these is actually quite good as long as it has a connection. So after almost a week of driving this, what do I think? Well, overall, I must say I'm pretty impressed with it. The one pedal calibration is pretty good. At low speed, it could use a little bit of help with the tip-in, just kind of the initial tip-in calibration, but not bad. One thing I did find really annoying was in parking lots, the automatic emergency braking in reverse was super intrusive. I would try back into a parking spot that had a little bit bigger of a like parking block that you put your tires up to, and it would just slam on the brakes as I got close to it, which was very annoying and actually can be quite jarring the first couple times, and pretty embarrassing if you have passengers in the car. If it's just me, I don't really care, but still pretty annoying. This charge door is just silly. It is so massive and is not confidence inspiring at all. It comes down kind of shaky and not in a very smooth manner. And if you have snow or schmutz or bigger tires or anything, it's probably going to be a problem. I've also heard some stories of them being ripped off actually by kind of heavier charge cables and kind of hitting it as you pull it out, and then it kind of drops down a little bit. So definitely be careful if you have one of these. Big battery, good value. No CarPlay is fine as long as you have a data plan, so that's really not an issue if you're buying one. They seem to be a pretty good value at 35 grand, but with the Model Y these days, it's pretty hard to argue that. But it's a bigger vehicle than a Model Y. Storage-wise, maybe not as good. But overall vehicle size, the first moment I got into it, it actually felt massive to me compared to my Model Y. That could be a bit of a result of the seating position and also just the really large front end. But compared to my Model Y, it was leaving me feeling pretty large and not so much in charge, I will say, just kind of road feel. But I got used to it over the next couple days. The ride comfort's good. Steering feel is pretty good. And I definitely rent it again. And if someone was in the market for one of these and this was their top choice, I wouldn't steer them away from it. I don't know if it's something I would steer people to. But if they insisted on having a GM product and they were already interested in it, it's certainly not something that is worth talking someone out of. And of course, everyone was so concerned about Tesla superchargers being opened up to other makes and that they would just take over and be such a problem. By Tesla standards, I am taking out 2 stalls right now, but it's a non-issue. There's one other car charging. There were no other cars charging when I got here. So if you've driven a Blazer EV or other Equinox, definitely comment down below. I'd love to hear what you guys think. If you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'll see you guys on the next one.